Okay, great. I think we can kick things off. So thanks everyone so much for coming to this webinar. The aim of this webinar is to help you to learn how to showcase your work more effectively and win more freelance work. If you've not heard of Twine before, we are a global community of creative and digital freelancers, and we connect the community with companies for all sorts of freelance work. And one of the key areas that we find freelancers most edge out others when pitching for work is around their portfolio, showcasing your creative work. And I really believe that Fabrik, which is the tool that we'll be talking about today, really is the secret weapon to help you to really blow away clients by showcasing your work to the best possible extent. So that's why I've been really excited about today's webinar, where we're going to be giving you all the tips you need to really make your portfolio stand out. And I'm going to be passing you over in a second to Tim, who's the CEO of Fabrik, and we'll be giving you a brief intro and then also introducing the two freelancers who we have on the webinar. We're very lucky to have today, Patrick and Joanna, who are going to be talking a bit about their own portfolios. And then Tim is going to be talking a bit about Fabrik and how you can really get your portfolio to stand out. And then at the end, we're going to be opening the floor up to you to answer your questions directly. So Tim, over to you.
Sure. Thank you, Joe. Joe and I have been working together for about 3 or 4 months now of trying to find ways to help freelancers move forward, especially in the times that we're in now. We're seeing a lot of uncertainty with the way that freelancers and creators are finding their work, which also means that a lot of the time creators have got to find other revenue streams and they can't rely on the ones that we've been working on up until this point. I'm a creative director and a graphic designer by trade, and I've spent the last 5 years building Fabrik with my co-founder Phil. Fabrik is a portfolio platform, so if you've used other website platforms like Squarespace or Wix or Cargo, any of those, you'll be familiar with the sort of thing that Fabrik is, except for we've taken a very simple and direct approach into how we actually, how the tools work in order to let you build a portfolio. So with Fabrik, the portfolio already exists. It's the best way to describe it. It's just waiting for your work. I've been making portfolios probably for about 20 years, one way or another, since the internet was very young, and have made a lot of them over time. They've become easier, the tools have become better, but fundamentally the concept of showing what you do and making someone else believe in you and believe in the quality of your work stays the same. So for me, the concept of a portfolio is very similar to what it would have been traditionally, where a creator would have gone to a job interview or to seen some art directors with a solid book of work, which they would have selected for that particular interview or that meeting, and they would have presented face to face. So for me, Fabrik is as digital and as simple a way of bridging that gap and showing you as a creator how you work and what your work does and how you put your process together as much as possible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to my screen and just walk you through a presentation, and I'm going to call on Joanna and Patrick just to walk through their websites as well. I've chosen Joanna because she has a really nice way of presenting the process behind her branding work. So she shows her mood boards and she has a very succinct style, which I think you can really see from just looking at her site exactly the kind of work you're going to get as somebody that will be buying her work. With Patrick as well, Patrick's site is very vibrant and all of his work fits really beautifully together. So he also spends time working on his own skill set and developing and exploring the stuff that he wants to do in order to expand on the richness of his portfolio and to sort of show exactly what he can do, even if it's not specifically for a client. So personal work and being able to show your personal work is also a really important part of of having a portfolio and showing the work that you want to give and that you want to be doing for everybody on scale. So I'm going to press a bunch of buttons and see if I can share the screen right now, which may or may not work.
Yes, we can see it all fine.
That works? Good. That's a start. Okay, so first off, your portfolio is your own little part of the internet. What this means, very simply, is it's your work and it's your style and it's your rules. That means it's your voice. With other platforms that you work on, whether they be social platforms like Instagram or Facebook or other creative platforms, at the end of the day, you are censored by what they will allow you to show. With your own portfolio, there's nothing that you can't show. This is particularly pertinent and important to creators that work in areas of the world where they're not always allowed to present themselves in a way they want to, or if the general way that they want to present themselves doesn't bide well with the way that most other people want to view them. So increasingly, as the world becomes more diversified, it's really important to have your place where you can express yourself. So when we come to building a portfolio, I want to split the elements of what we're working today into 4 separate sections. So firstly, I want to talk about the presentation layer, which is about how you prepare your work so that it all looks like it's come from you. Throughout your career, you'll be working, especially as a freelancer for work, you'll be working for different clients, you'll be working on different jobs for different briefs, and sometimes the work that you produce can jar very difficultly against each other. So I'm going to talk about how you can make your work all fit so that it says, this is my work, this is a complete body of work, and I'm presenting it to the world. Then we're going to talk about keeping your portfolio simple. The reason for that is it's going to encourage you to actually finish it. And then how you build out a funnel to show people your work and how you build your audience. And then finally about keeping it current, which is really hard for most creators who spend a few months building their portfolio and then absolutely let it go for years on end. So we're going to start with the presentation layer first. And I'm going to do this by firstly showing you some work from my own portfolio, and then from Joe's, and then from Patrick's as well. So what I'm showing you here is primarily tone, scale, and setting. So this work is all packaging work, it's all real world work, and I'm trying to, with these images, put a grade on each image so that they all look like they're part of a family. I'm keeping the scale of the imagery all the same, so that it's easy to understand and easy to consume. And I'm placing all of the imagery in an outside real world setting where it makes sense. If I move from project to project through my portfolio, then it has that clear and concise kind of feel that shows that, you know, this is one presentation of work. And for real world work stuff and for digital stuff, that works just as well. So again, scales in play here. I'm using device mockups to house all kinds of digital stuff. And I'll do that all the way through my portfolio. And then that also very quickly presents the medium on which you're intending your work to be shown in its real full capability. And from this, you then get a full sense of the style of a particular portfolio. With Joe's work as well, I've picked out one of her mood boards because she has a superb way of putting effectively the stuff that she wants to share with her client with the imagery that she uses for inspiration and for building that mood board out in the first place. What this gives you is effectively a complete overview of what she's trying to achieve in just 1 or 2 images. So as a brand, she can instantly present this to somebody and they will understand immediately what she's trying to achieve. And then, you know, she can then explain her thought process and her inspiration behind that. And that singular way of showing it is a real hard seller. It makes it very easy for a client to understand what she's getting at, and it makes it very easy for a client to understand and visualize how it will look in real life. From Patrick's portfolio, I wanted to show you guys this because it's very simply Patrick's own identity rendered in a bunch of different ways that are really kind of interesting and allow him to experiment with the software and skill sets he already has in different ways. So we see this quite often with 3D VFX and motion graphics guys, where they take a singular iconic identity or a sculpture or a piece of work that they're working on, and then they render it with different materials, with different environments and scenarios, and with different renderers as well. And the idea there is that they're using this opportunity to be really playful, and they're also generating really nice assets that they can actually then go and use in their portfolio to share with. So, you know, to summarize this, with our media, we're looking to maintain a sense of correct scale across all of the imagery that we do, and the same tone, the same color grade. So that means that it's really either, as you'll see in Patrick's portfolio, very saturated, and as you'll see in Joanna's portfolio and in mine as well, it's very muted and very calm. And those two things lead back into the setting, and that sense of uniformity then gives you a really concise and kind of really nice package of a portfolio to show people. They can immediately understand by employing you what they're going to get out of the package, whether it's right for them or whether it's not. And you're not going to go 2 months down the line of working with someone for them just to sort of peter out, which is, as you guys, I'm sure you've all done before, you start a freelance project with the greatest of intentions, and your artistic direction and the artistic direction of your client can sometimes go in very different directions. So expectations up front is a really good way of explaining that. With your imagery, you should always have words. Words are really important because they're helping to explain your thought process, and they're also helping to explain your contribution to what you did. Oftentimes, if you're working on freelance projects, you'll be working with other creators, and it's really important to show people what you did, where your contribution was made, and where it wasn't as well. This is particularly important for art directors and for motion graphics designers that are part of often a larger campaign of work. So keep that succinct, and please always do add some words. I see in Fabrik so many creators that have portfolios full of images and no words, which makes them highly undiscoverable on Google. And it also makes it very difficult to relate back what you've actually done and where your input comes. So in that respect, the presentation layer becomes a common theme that runs through your portfolio that brings it all together. So it makes a body of work rather than separate items. And if you have a body of work that stretches back 5-10 years, you can often go back and repackage older projects so that they fit in with a newer kind of style. And all of this should be done outside of your portfolio platform. This is just your work, they're your assets, and you can then have these assets to share wherever they want to go. So at this point, I'm going to let go of the screen again and give this to Jo, just to talk a little bit about her world, where she came from, and how she's doing what she's doing now.
Yeah, right. Let me just to share mine as well. 1 second.
Also, I have the squeakiest chair in the world. I don't know if you can
I did notice
hear that. It's really irritating.
Right. Mine's not sharing. Desktop one. There we go. Oh, 1 second. It's asking me to grant access.
I often do that on meetings. It's always the best.
You're trying to desperately not move, Tim, not squeak the chair.
Yeah, this is what it's like all day long. Just have to be frozen.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. It worked. Let me just make it full screen so you can see it. So a little bit about me. So I kind of started my career as a photographer. I fell in love with photography from like a really, really young age. My dad was a photographer, just an amateur. He used to just shoot like family, friends, weddings, and he was just a huge inspiration for me. He bought me my first kit. And from there, I used to photograph friends and kind of built up a portfolio from there. That kind of made my, well, started my journey to where I am now. I started up back in college, started up social accounts. So Instagram wasn't really a thing back then, but you had Flickr, Bebo was kind of a thing back then as well. And then obviously Facebook. So I grew my business solely through Facebook, just posting consistently and posting my work. Obviously my style and everything has changed a huge amount since I first started. And as kind of time went on, I would kind of rebrand myself all the time, as you do, finding kind of discovering yourself, discovering what you like visually, and it kind of just really opened me up to design and just going down another path. So for me, I then started Prairie Sage. I mean, I started the brand after I actually started doing work for clients, because I had been successful with my photography. I then had kind of people asking, oh, can you help me out with this? Or can you help me out with that? And then kind of the birth of Prairie Sage came to be. So
actually, Jo, this is a really important part of what you just said there about rebranding yourself over time. I think that's also really important, because personal branding is effectively the expression of how you present yourself to the outside world. And as a creator, that is an evolutionary process. Mm-hmm. So I think it's really encouraging to see creators go through this process over time, and to park something and to go in a different direction, to find something they're really inspired by, and to sort of make that part of their identity moving forward, and how they present themselves to the rest of the world. One of the reasons that I wanted Jo to speak today is because she has effectively found her audience through social, which is becoming increasingly difficult to do, just because of the noise of social. And the way that she has done this is by effectively working within the constraints of the social platform, like primarily Instagram and Facebook, where it's primarily photography that works. So she has just naturally lent on the platform that most rewards her effort. So by sharing on Instagram, and by, I'll let her talk about what she does, but by sharing on Instagram and by bringing in the community of people around her, it helps to encourage her to do more work and to present stuff. I'll hand back.
Yeah, so just following off the back of that, so kind of just doing shoots and just for people, whether it's businesses or, like I said, friends, just simple things like I do like newborns, family sessions, weddings, just sharing those pictures and like tagging the people in it just brings more of a community to you. And then like I don't have to post regularly to be able to, and I mean it is all about consistency, but I've built up that community now to a point where when I do post, I instantly get engagement from everybody. Everybody's really kind of supportive, and anything I work on editorially shoots for like other businesses, like local businesses, I just make sure that I'm kind of tagging other people in it, bringing them all together so that they can share. They're not just sharing my work, but also I get to share what they do, and it just kind of builds you up as a business. And it literally is the reason for where I am today, is by kind of including those other businesses and using them as kind of, I don't know, a ladder as well. And then same for them, they're kind of using my imagery to promote their business. So it's just beneficial on all sides.
Show some of your projects, Joanna.
Yeah, of course. So I'll give an example of that. So a recent piece that I worked on for a bridal company. She's actually a bridal boutique who just started her own brand of dresses. So she did all of her branding prior to coming to me, and then we worked on together just increasing her online presence, just getting her feed like visually aesthetic, bringing all of her brand together. And then through my photography business, we worked on a shoot, an editorial shoot, to use to really kind of give her that brand aesthetic, to make sure that throughout everything that she's posting, sharing, sending to other boutiques, stockists that have her kind of her dresses in store. It's just using those assets so everything's consistent, that you instantly know when it's either her or something related to her business. So firstly, I'll just start. So I've kind of added some imagery from the shoot, as well as just like a small clip of the screen on Instagram, and you guys can all go to that page if you want to have a look at it. If you scroll down to kind of early on this year, you'll see just the difference of the feed, the aesthetic, the kind of the output as well. Like we worked on that shoot. She has done other shoots aside to that, just to bring it all together. So everything on there I've designed, I've written, I've kind of collated and brought together. So you can see kind of on here, there's a mood board. Everything I've kind of designed all of the assets for, just to bring it all together, bring that color together, her main styling and branding. These are some images from the shoot we did. Again, working with other businesses. This was done during COVID, so we had to limit the amount of people, obviously on set, on site. So we had a makeup artist, a florist. I also did the branding for the florist who we worked alongside here. But throughout, we made sure that we were tagging, we were like kind of celebrating those other artists and creators. Like it was a brilliant shoot. So back to what Tim said about adding content to your site, I always like to give like a little bit of context on any of my imagery, like whether it's work, like content creation work, or branding, or literally just images. I like to just give a little bit of context. And also what I find is absolutely key is adding the websites to the people that you've worked alongside, or even if it is just a client, just making sure that you're linking back out is brilliant for Google, and just general like SEO. And also like it just gives the opportunity to really like have a look and other people to explore the creators that you work alongside.
Joe, let's quickly look at the florist mood boards that you've got in there as well.
So just go to Anna Flores. This is the florist that we worked on that shoot with as well. So I created her branding. So she literally didn't know where to start. I kind of had like an initial meeting with her. I got a feel for what she likes, what she's inspired by, just by getting to know her. And then I just put together a mood board. Now I had already photographed a couple of weddings that she'd worked on, so that worked in my favor. Might not always be the case for a lot of clients, but if I scroll down to the mood board, this is kind of where the initial idea comes from. So the first image that really kind of like where I really picked up the color and the tone was this kind of beach chair. She absolutely loves that terracotta color, like that was kind of key for her. And then I just wanted to bring in everything else around it. So I know kind of her personal taste. She is quite like, loves kind of minimalism, just like myself. Obviously flowers, floristry, she likes design, how things are like laid out. So you can see kind of got like wedding vibes, like just bringing it all together to create her kind of tone, her essence, her voice. But also it reflects on me because I'm quite similar to her in terms of my taste, so I could really bring that to life for her. I instantly know what she wanted, and it is simple to the extent that it is literally just words. There's no kind of type like really complicated, over fussy typography. It's just quite simple, minimalist, and that really works for her.
And that's an important part to sort of park there on as well, Joanna, that the people that Joanna's working with understand and appreciate the same sources that she does, which means that as you look through her portfolio, you get her, you understand what you're going to get out of this. And that can be the same for any one of us as well. Like, we're always going to find it easier to work with clients who appreciate the work we do. Presenting ourselves in that way really helps. Joe, I'm going to ask you to drop the screen and we're going to move on to Patrick.
Ooh. Hold on, it's just on full screen. Oh.
You might have to go out of full screen first.
Yeah, it's not coming. There we go. Stop share. There we are.
Yeah, perfect. So, so with Patrick as well, I just want Patrick to give us a few minutes about his career, where he's come from, and just to talk about his portfolio. Over to Patrick.
Oh, you're on mute.
That's Joe's fault.
Sorry, guys.
That's all right.
I've been looking after a baby for the last 3 months, so I'm not really in work mode at the moment. So yeah, this is my first time doing something professional for a while. Hi, so I'm Patrick. Bit of history about where I've come from. So I did product design at uni, but found that very iterative and my attention span wasn't long enough. So then sort of found Photoshop during the middle of that and was amazed with the way you could bring collages and things to life. And then I was spending a lot of money on stock imagery and pulling those all together, making quite awful art actually at the beginning. So bought myself a camera. Wasn't a particularly good photographer, nowhere near the quality of Joe's stuff, but it allowed me to start building collages and really messing about in Photoshop. And then somebody showed me Cinema 4D like 9 years ago or something now, and it was, I think the thing they showed me wasn't even in the slightest bit photo real, but just this idea of you being able to create something from scratch and build out worlds and environments and objects was amazing to me. It sort of replaced the stock imagery from the camera. So I got stuck into Cinema 4D and then backwardly got into After Effects after that because I was animating in Cinema 4D and needed to be able to composite it together. And then that's eventually, after a few agencies down the line, led me to be lead motion designer at Engine UK, formerly WCRS. So yeah, that's a bit about me. Right now, I'm about to make the jump into freelance, which is, I think some people think I'm a bit mad because there's a global pandemic and I've got an 8-month-old baby that won't go to sleep. But that's what I want to do, so I'm going to do it. And yeah, Fabrik really, helps me put something like this together. I'm a really lazy portfolio guy. I want to spend my time doing the work and producing work. And I went through. Tim's not paying me to say this, honestly. I went through quite a few different portfolio sites. So I actually built my own using code. And then Wix, and then Squarespace, and then was talking to a developer about getting a custom one, a bespoke one built, but it was just getting enormously expensive, and I wasn't really going to get much back out of it. And then a friend of mine, Jacob Hopewell, a director, put me onto Fabrik, and it just does everything I need it to in a really clean and simple way. And I'm not suggesting that you should just throw projects up and down willy-nilly, but if you need to move stuff around or add in new content, it's not a pain in the neck to do that. So it doesn't become this laborious, I've just finished a project, I need to get that work up onto my site to show it. It's 5 or 10 minutes. And for me, in my world, being able to link to Vimeo and other mediums like that is really helpful. So Tim's just asked me to, sorry, just looking at my notes. Yeah, so obviously I work on client work. So I separate my portfolio out into client stuff and then also personal stuff. So done stuff for the Olympics, RAF, Now TV, Eon, Churchill. I think,
Patrick, can you just show your Now TV project?
Yeah, sure. Where's that?
I'm going to talk this one through because I really like this project. This project shows the presentation layer really well. You'll see that at the top, this is a layout we call Spotlight, which has one big image and then two smaller images next to it. And then as the screen shrinks down to mobile, they effectively become stacked, which is one underneath another. But you'll see Patrick's got this, this group of pink ones, a group of blue ones, and then a group of yellow ones at the bottom. That is a really succinct way of showing Patrick's style all in one page. Like, I know that if I employ Patrick, I'm going to get this quality of work. It's going to be colourful. It's going to be vibrant. It's going to be full of motion, and which for Now TV is perfectly engaging work. And you'll see that as you work back through his portfolio. The typography that he's chosen is on trend. It's nice and it's simple, and it works with the style of the imagery that he's produced as well. And now ping us over to your personal work, Patrick. So again, often if you are working for somebody and you've been doing that for a long time, or you're just about to go out onto freelance, you may not have that much going on in your evenings and your weekends, and for some reason you might want to be sat in front of your computer all this time. Using your portfolio to present personal work that you spend time doing is really powerful, because it gives you the perfect reason to actually just be creating work. A lot of time we don't always get the opportunity to do the kind of work that we want to do for our bread and butter. So the personal work that we do and the explorations that we do there are, for me, and always have been, like the perfect way to sort of forward your skill set, and also to have something in your portfolio that you want to show. Somebody once told me years ago that your portfolio should be full of the stuff that you want to be doing, not the stuff that you've done. And that's a really important thing to notice. So put the stuff that you want to be doing in your portfolio, even if you haven't done it yet for money. Like if it means doing it for yourself, do it for yourself, because this is the stuff that you're showing people that you want to be doing. And that's effectively what they're buying into. Thank you, Patrick. I'm going to hand back to presentation land again now.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to try and share my screen. Oh, that didn't work. Too many buttons. Okay. So next up is keep it simple. This is really important. Whatever platform you use to create your portfolio is the one that you're going to be stuck to. So basically, the simpler you can make your workflow from whatever projects you're working to presenting it to the rest of the world, keep it simple. Oftentimes you'll have your work already up in the world, whether that's on creative platforms like Behance, whether it's on Instagram, whether it's on Vimeo or YouTube, or whether it's through the services you use like Twine, where you're actually showing work. So you're always presenting work. Make sure that keeping your portfolio up to date and designing it is a simple process. And remember as well that it's a website. You have a time limit to show your audience what you're made of. It's normally less than 3 minutes. So within 3 minutes, you've got to show somebody everything that you want them to see. Choose the work that best reflects where you want to focus. So next up, I want to show you a guy called Sam Gilby's website. Sam's an illustrator, and from his homepage, most of us now looking at this will be able to identify about 2/3 of the imagery that's on there. So Sam is immediately showing you what he's working on and his style. Like, he has this illustrative style that sits over the top of everything that he's working on. You know what you're going to get if you employ Sam to do work for you, and you know that just from here, just from this one page. Put up your recent and your best work and keep that up front and make it as easy as possible for your audience to see it. So if we look at Glassworks, which is a VFX house in London, they focus their portfolio on the newest stuff that comes out. The mentality here is that our newest work is our best work. What we're working on next will be even better than what we're working on now. So this creates a really progressive way of looking at your portfolio. It's like I'm at my best A game right now, and my best A game is just getting better month on month on month. So this is the reason why you need to keep that portfolio up to date all the time. This is something that I'm really bad at myself as well. Like, my portfolio is well out of date because, unfortunately, I've been doing Fabrik for 5 years, so nothing else has happened. To keep that stuff up to date and to keep it rolling is always, it's not only showing other people what you're up to, but it's showing search engines that you're active and that you need to be listed. It's really important to keep moving stuff forwards. So when it comes to the build of your portfolio, take your inspiration from places like, if you look at Pinterest, if you look at other websites for your inspiration, just keep that inspiration close and just see what works for other people. Just see how they're putting their websites together. Follow those creators back to their own personal websites and see how they're actually building stuff. Always maintain a separation between your media and your platform. So back in the old days of having to code your own websites or using non-specific platforms like WordPress or Squarespace, you would often have to cut your imagery to the specific formats of the theme that you're using. One of the things that we set out to solve when we built Fabrik was to have your media completely detached from the customization engine, so that at no point do you create media for a template. The template takes your media and it adapts to your media. You can change your crop ratios, you can change the way the layouts work, but at no point does that platform ever dictate the work that you're doing. So to separate those is really important. And finally, to just experiment with customizations. This is my personal website on our 8 Fabrik themes. To make a platform that allows creators to simply press buttons to change stuff is really important to us, because it means that it becomes a playful experience. And this is really important as we start our portfolio. You know, the first point I get as a creator where I'm stuck, I'm just going to go and make a cup of coffee and I probably won't come back. So keep playing and keep experimenting, keep changing the fonts, keep changing the colors, keep changing the layouts, and keep it yours. Like, it's going to change over time, and you know, you're going to discover a new font on Google or Typekit or something, or Adobe Fonts, and you're going to want to adopt that into your platform. Make sure that your platform keeps your media away from all of that stuff. So so there we, at this point, you know, I'm hoping that we've got some imagery and we've played with the portfolio enough that we've got a portfolio website live, that it's time for us to start building the funnel on how people arrive at your portfolio in the first place. So, and this is where I really like to encourage creators to use creative platforms and networks to gain exposure. So creative platforms will give you exposure alongside other creatives. If your product gets showcased, you'll receive a lot of interest for a short time. So I encourage creators to put their work on networks that work within their sector. So like, if you're a 3D guy, you might be using ArtStation. If you're a graphic designer or an illustrator, you might be using Behance. If you create UI and UX stuff, you might be using Dribbble, or you might be using all of them. And really, the more the merrier. You know, have your Pinterest accounts, have your Instagrams, have your Behance, your Dribbles, as much as you can. Get the work out there, so that the more people that can see it, the better. And that in each of those singular networks or platforms, push people back to your own website. So for every project that you create on Behance, make sure that the last part of that project is a link back to the project on your website, or is it like a see more or something like that, that pushes people back to your portfolio. And when they're at your portfolio, remember that they're in your world. When you're looking at stuff on Instagram, you're looking at it through Instagram's lens. You know, it's the way that Instagram wants you to see it. So use those networks and use those platforms to pull people back to the way that you want people to see your work, you know, within the surrounds and within the environment that you want. Within Fabrik, we try and make it very easy to make sure that we're giving a little bit of something back, so that when when you are active on all these other platforms, there's a way that people can find your Behance profile or your Pinterest profile, your Allo profile or your Dribble profile. You have them all in your profile links, and we encourage this sort of back and forth between your portfolio and the rest of your creative world. I think it's really important to make sure that you own your content in as many places as possible, and it all comes back through this funnel. And just to keep it current, make updating joyful. It's really important that 6 months down the line that you haven't forgotten how to update your portfolio, that you've got new work to show. And remember sometimes to unpublish old work. Going back to our 3 minutes, there's no point having 300 projects of old work that aren't important. So to keep your portfolio tight is really, really key here. And again, as you change and your skill set changes, you may want to find specific new jobs or new work to be working on, and then to focus your portfolio back to that kind of the style that you're working with, the new work that you're on is really important. Here, a motion designer called Joyce is just using one page of just the most recent stuff at the top. That's all you're seeing. She then allows you to drop down into specific categories later on, but it's always, this is my newest, most important work. And then moving on from that, group your work into sections or sub-portfolios to let your visitors get to the stuff they're most interested in quickly. And design your portfolio for repeat visits. So it's very important to, if you are working with a large body of work, to show that recent highlighted stuff up front, and then also allow prospective clients to look through to specific areas of your body of work that they might be most relevant with. So they might want to see, what you've done in animation or what you've done in VFX. It's important, if you can, to categorize that stuff as much as possible. And in Fabrik, that's something we do with portfolios. We allow each project to be in multiple portfolios or in no portfolios at all. So I can have the same piece of work in VFX and in animation. And that means that then I can very quickly get someone navigated through a body of work. So to keep refocusing your work when needed is really important. And also, as we saw with both Patrick and with Joanna, to be your favorite client. When you are working on your own projects, self-initiated projects, you're doing your best work often. Get it out into the world and take pride in your accomplishments. Your portfolio is the end result of everything you've worked on. Say you've been working for 6 months or a year on one campaign. Your portfolio is where you compress all that down to how you want the rest of the world to see it. So take pride in that, and just remember to keep it updated as much as possible. And I'm going to stop talking there because I think that's probably been enough of that. So Joe, I'm going to go back to you now.
Yeah, thanks so much, Tim. And thanks, Joanna and Patrick. That was brilliant. Lots of really great insights there. So now it's time to open the floor to answer your questions directly. I see we've got one question in the Q&A, but if you want to start using that Q&A feature, then please start sending us your questions or put it in the chat if you'd prefer. I just wanted to actually kick off by asking, Joanna, in terms of, let's say you were pitching to a client that you haven't met before, and you wanted to show them different aspects of work that related to, let's say, something very minimal. That client that you showed as an example, the terracotta, who liked the terracotta color. How would you string in the different links into different parts of your portfolio, and how would you actually structure your portfolio to make sure that you can pull out the different bits? And then how would you actually make the pitch clarify for the client what they should be looking at and why it's important?
So to kind of, for me, a lot of the time I kind of meet my clients face to face, but I need to be able to show them something, like as in like I go on the internet and I'll go through and I'll show them. And I think that using Fabrik as a platform to do that, literally I can go through and be like and explain what I've done. So what you see for my portfolio is kind of what they're going to get as a pitch. So I kind of like want to get to know them before I pitch. I mean, I put together that kind of that brand, the mood board, to kind of give them an idea. So I'll run them through what I've already done in terms of portfolio, and kind of like put them in that scenario, put across like to them like how I would put their vision for their brand into kind of that mood board, into that kind of that branding, give them an idea for an aesthetic. A lot of my clients don't even have an idea of what they want themselves to look like visually. They'll be like, oh, I like so and so, or I like so and so, but it's kind of like they want to pull together their inspiration and really like hone down who they are, how they want to be perceived as a brand, as a business, whatever they do. So recently I've just had a kitchen designer, so they're carpenters, but they want to be more than just carpenters. They want to be kind of this big visual brand. Like they want to be able to showcase kitchens that for huge clients. And at the moment, their brand just doesn't do that for them. So I went through and I showed them, kind of gave them those ideas of, well, what do you want? What do you want to look like? And I've come up with a concept from there for them. So that'll be a new one to add to my portfolio once that hopefully comes through.
Brilliant. And Patrick, I was going to ask, going back to the SEO question regarding getting content on the site, I would imagine that animation has an even bigger problem there because there's so much content contained within the actual portfolio examples. So I didn't see on the portfolio itself. It'd be great to get an understanding of how are you communicating the context of each project and sort of the stylistic information to help you rank in Google, or just give more content on the site itself? Oh, I think you're muted, Patrick.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. To be honest, I haven't pushed that hard for Google stuff yet, so that's probably the wrong question to ask me. But because my world's so aesthetic, and everything I do is about the visual, sometimes with audio as well. The way I use the portfolio, even though it's there up live for future clients, is mostly sending over as Tim said, more like the olden days where you'd turn up with a book, and mine's is just a book that is online. I was actually naughtily asked Tim the other day to take the titles off my homepage, which is actually really anti-Google, because for accessibility,
this is actually how we ended up having this conversation.
Yeah. But for the aesthetic, for me, I'm using it more once I've pointed someone at it. So someone else might better answer that question, Joe. Sorry about the Google stuff.
I mean, I can wade in there as well, Joe.
Sure.
Again, explain what we see often with filmmakers, which is really important, is that because so many people work on any given film, whether it's a commercial or a feature, it's a credit list, which is really important, and also another way to link in everybody else that's worked on that project. Synopsis is also really important, but then just to explain a little bit, this is something that Joe's done just now, is to explain the thought process behind how you got from nowhere to the finished result. That may be that you spend a couple of sentences talking about your typography or your color choices, or where you got stuff from. This is all really good feature-rich keywords, which Google loves because it's specific keywords to the work that you do, which isn't just sort of spouted up everywhere. So whether it's just a summary or whether you go real hard on a case study, I think it's always really important just to spend a bit of time just talking about what you've been doing for 6 months on this project, because all of those words are really good ways of ranking you, and that's a way a lot of creators find work.
Yeah, I can jump on there. Like, so I make sure that in my pitches, I use the words from my pitches onto my site. So I've got that content not just as kind of like imagery and what I send to people, but just so, like you said, it's any content, and having context in terms of what you're doing and how you've done it is better than having like nothing at all. So
brilliant.
That was a great question, Joe, because I'm learning there.
Cool. Right, let's go over to the Q&A. So the first question, probably best directed at Tim actually, is e-commerce possible with Fabrik?
Yeah, it is. E-commerce is a difficult one, and I'll go into a little bit why. E-commerce platforms are built very specifically to sell stuff. Portfolio platforms are built very specifically to show stuff. And there's a lot of features that don't work between those two things. Like an e-commerce platform, for example, should have a way that you can spit out discount vouchers and promo codes to all of your audience on Christmas time or whatever. We do have e-commerce on Fabrik via a sort of another platform called Equid, which is an e-commerce widget. And there are ways that you can quite easily adopt an e-commerce shop into your site. Jo has one in hers. But also we would say as an alternative to that, to have a shop in a platform that's built specifically for commerce is really important. If it's Etsy or whatever it might be, those platforms also have communities of their own which help you get stuff sold. And I'm talking about things like Etsy here. So if you have a way that other people are already looking to buy stuff and you appear within that community, in that marketplace, then that's a really good way of getting stuff out there. Don't expect people to magically appear at your portfolio website looking to buy stuff. That's not how things work in the world. I fully appreciate that a lot of creators are looking at other revenue streams at the moment, which is really important. But you know, if you want to sell stuff, have a shop on your website, but also have a shop in its own right. It's really important to make that as easy as possible for you to find an audience. So yeah, totally.
Awesome. So the next question, which I imagine will require responses from all of you really, which is how many design/creatives do I need so my portfolio doesn't look empty? Joanna, what would your view be on that?
I mean, like Tim said earlier, you want it to be your best work. You don't want to overload your site with too much, and just having your best work, how you want to present yourself as kind of the forefront of your portfolio. I think that's like key. So there's no need to go overboard, but having one or two might not shout about you or really give you a voice or even give you kind of that aesthetic on your portfolio as well. I think Tim will probably agree.
If I had to put a number on it, I would say aim for 10. You know, like if you can find 10 things that show the world what you've done, you know, that's not a major ask. And I think that if you have a smaller body of work, that you try where possible to add a few extra pieces for each project and flesh out each of those projects as a case study. So to actually really focus on the fact that each of these projects is a specific case study, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what I've done in this project and the difference I've made. If you're doing a brand identity, for example, you know, the part of that is what it looked like before you were involved, and then you'll process through it through the creative process and conceptual stage to get to the end. So if you do have a small body of work with a limited amount of projects, just flesh them out, just make them, just really use that presentation layer to bring that work out to the front. But yeah, I would say aim for 10 if you can.
Just on the back of that as well, I've got a friend who's a director, and he only has 4. I agree with everything that you guys are saying, and obviously I've got more than 4 projects on my homepage, but he only has 4 projects, 4 films, short films that he ever has on his homepage, and it sort of fills a 1920 by 1080 laptop screen as a landing page when you get there. And I mean, that works really well for him. Like people get him. It's so clear and so succinct and so simple that you know who he is and what he's about straight away. I think the thing with having too little there is if it feels like too little to you, other people are going to see that as well and sort of see through a smaller body of work. So yeah, I think bumping it out into case studies is a really, really helpful way of making something feel bigger.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Next question, going back to you, Patrick. Have you ever changed the portfolio depending on what clients you're sending it to?
So this is what Fabrik's very good at. But, I'm undecided on this because I do. But then if I'm talking to multiple clients at the same time, then and you know that I'm wanting to show them different stuff, it's a dangerous game to be messing about with your portfolio and changing the structure all the time. I will sort of consistently review, maybe periodically, say sort of once every 2 months, where I'll have a look and see what feels a bit old or tired, or if the colours aren't working for me, or I want to try like a new cover image on the front so that it really stands out. So last week I changed up my homepage a bit, not drastically, but it just feels fresher to me. I don't know, but yeah, I think I would adapt if I was sending to like an advertising agency. I'd probably either direct them to a personal portfolio that I could put up in the menu, and that's pretty easy to put together quickly. Yeah, I think you can, but don't go messing around with it too much, because obviously this is live to all your clients.
Yeah, it's a good way to. I mean, I don't want to push anyone down a particular avenue, but with the concept of portfolios within Fabrik, it does mean that you can set up either a private or a password protected portfolio, or one that's just not linked from the menu, and cherry pick the projects that go into it. This is very commonly seen for filmmakers who make treatments. So if they're putting a body of work together for a particular film that they're pitching on, they'll just cherry pick a bunch of projects from their entire body of work into a portfolio, and then share that portfolio only with that client. And then when that client's seen it, blah, 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 and then they can just delete that portfolio later on if they need to, or repurpose it for another client. So,
Tim, is it worth making the differentiation between a portfolio and what a portfolio means in Fabrik?
Yeah. So in Fabrik, a portfolio website is your website, but a portfolio itself is simply a collection of projects. So, like to use the computer sort of analogy, your projects are files and your portfolio is a folder. So, I mean, it's just a way that we collate projects together. So on my personal website, I have a portfolio for branding, I have a portfolio for digital, and a portfolio for print. But they all are on the homepage, and they're all jumbled together. But it's just effectively a view or a filter on specific project work.
Awesome, thanks so much for that. So next question. I'm not sure exactly what this refers to, Tim. Be good to get your clarification here. But Sarah's asked, is the architecture portfolio the same as what you explained? Is that in relation to an example you showed during the presentation?
Not that I'm aware of. I don't know if Sarah's got a URL for that at all. Yeah,
Sarah, if you could pop it in the chat exactly what you meant there, that'd be great. Maybe we can just quickly return to that. Next one is about how important is it to have a blog in your website? Any tips on how to do this well? From David.
Yeah, it's all right. It's not important, but it's really useful. And the way that we explain that is that a blog is really good for transient content, and search engines love transient content. So if you can use a blog to flesh out the stuff that happens between projects or in the work in progress level of the projects, then that's better. We have a blog in Fabrik for that exact reason, that it may take you 6 months to present a piece of work because you've worked on it, but you can be blogging your progress through that project at all points. And you can also be blogging between projects as well. All of which, again, is really good feature-rich keywords. And it also is allowing you to bring people back to your portfolio from posting on Facebook or wherever else as well. So I really like the blog. A lot of creators find it difficult to write that content just because a lot of creators don't like writing. It's natural for people in our industry to present themselves with imagery and video instead of words. But if you can do it, I think, yeah, definitely it's really powerful if you can blog and continue to blog.
Cool. Next question from Kelvin. This is an interesting one. So he's put, is it a good idea to use a WordPress theme for your portfolio? But actually, I would flip that and say, Tim, why should someone use a Fabrik portfolio and not use a WordPress theme if they're an animator or an illustrator or any kinds of the creative work that you've shown today? What would be the key thumb up?
I'll tell you what you should use WordPress. WordPress has a massive community of developers. Fabrik doesn't, because WordPress is 20 years old and Fabrik isn't, and it's open source as well. So WordPress does variety very well. It does focus very badly. So if you choose a theme, a template on WordPress, you will have to make all of your content fit that theme. And if you then change your theme on WordPress, you will probably have to do some work to repair that. We work the other way around, where you're never touching that media. So it takes us a lot longer to build a theme in Fabrik than it does for a WordPress developer, because a theme in Fabrik may have 40 different layouts, and it can sit equally as well for an architect as it can for a motion graphics designer, as it can for a fashion stylist, as it can for a model. And we need to design out all those different ways. So it's basically two different ways of looking at the same problem. You will find something that you see from the outside on WordPress and you're like, I want my website to look like that. And if you can make that happen, go for it. Whereas we take the approach of, we want to make the website appear out through your work, to adapt to your work. We built Fabrik because of WordPress. We built Fabrik because I'm a web designer. I ran an agency for 10 years before building Fabrik, and we tried to build WordPress websites. We'd built our own websites for 10 years, and then we were tasked with building WordPress websites. And it was such a mess. It was such a waste of time that we actually thought we could probably build our own. So we did. So, I mean, yeah, there are either way, if you get on with WordPress and if it works for you, then absolutely, absolutely go with whichever works for you. What we also find as well with creators is that a new creator will be often trying multiple platforms at the same time, and they will just basically carry on with the one that causes them the least pain. So I may start on day one with a new Squarespace trial, a new WordPress trial, and a new Fabrik trial, and whichever one of those ones is the least painful is the one that I continue with, and that will be different for each creator.
Great stuff. Thanks, Tim. So, Sarah's updated the question. So what she meant was, all the strategies that you talked about, can we use those strategies to make an architecture portfolio? Yeah,
absolutely. Architecture is a bit different perhaps from things like illustration and stuff, in that the timescales for your work are obviously much longer. But the flip side of that is that you have a much more granular project to show at the end of the day. So there's obviously a lot more moving parts in architecture, but the end result is either real photos or renderings of the work that you're doing, whether that's commercial, whether it's residential, whatever. We have a bunch of architects in Fabrik, and oftentimes some of the themes that have very expansive, like full screen sort of image areas work very well for that. Architectural imagery can be quite detailed, just because of the scale of it. And I would just say, yeah, choose a very, very simple theme with very simple typography. The theme that Joanna's using is called Jute, which is actually quite good for that, because it has these big open screen sort of home pages and project pages, and really just allow the full resolution of your renderings or your imagery to actually show through, and just explain that process. Get those wireframes in there. Get the sort of research and the conceptual work you're doing on finishes and textiles and textures. Get it all in there, and just really go through that whole process.
Great stuff. And then Bruno's got a really interesting question here, which is, I would love to know how to get my work to stand out from other artists. I am a concept artist for games and find it really hard to get people to notice my work when there are so many incredible artists out there with so many amazing jobs done for huge game studios, while I don't have a big name yet.
Yeah,
tricky one.
It's the same for everybody. Everybody's creative discipline is pretty saturated. Any creative discipline that you can effectively do with a relatively small set of tools, like a computer, is obviously going to have more people in it as well. So you've got to just do fantastic work, and you've got to push it out into the world. and to be as positive through that process as possible. That's where communities come into it as well. So your positive energy as a contributor to other communities is what's going to get you noticed. So also everybody loves to watch somebody's evolution through their skills as well. So, I mean, my advice there is to join the Facebook groups and the online communities that are active in your sector, and to let other people into your process, share work in progress with people, to ask for their advice, and to really just lean on the fact that one thing that creative communities have in common is that most of the time they're very progressive and they're very optimistic communities. And a lot of the times the best creators that I've known have been creators that moved into new sectors and just absolutely soaked them up. So just get your work out there and keep working on it. Do personal stuff, explore the stuff that you want out in the world, even if it's something that you don't get paid for. You know, just do it for yourself or do it for friends and other people. Like, also to work with other creators in your sector, to collaborate, just with the sole goal of producing stuff that you can share. It's absolutely valid and is a good use of your time.
Can I just say something off the back of that as well, Bruno? I suffer massively from imposter syndrome every time I sit down in front of the computer, because, like Tim says, there's just so many people out there that I hold up on a huge pedestal and just think I'm never going to be, on their level. But then once I break away from that and I sit down and say, all right, I'm just gonna have a play around. I enjoy this. This is why I'm here. Let's just make something and then show that off. That's the fun bit, right? And that's what you're in it for. And usually, if you're enjoying it, you'll have something at the end to show, even if it's maybe like a single asset. You can vary that asset once you've got it pretty quickly, and show it in different contexts, different colorways, different typography, whatever it is, and different angles, and build that out as a little project in your portfolio, and that'll, a little goes a long way there. So it's okay to compare yourself to other people and to be inspired by them, I'd say, but don't feel belittled by them, because that's negative energy to have from that.
Yeah, I think that's good advice. And there was just a final point I wanted to touch on, which I think relates to this, which is, Joanna and Tim, you were talking about the evolution of the direction or style of your portfolio. Joanna, how did you figure out on that evolution? How did you figure out which were good directions to go in and which weren't? And how did you go about? Was it people in your network that you like, friends that you asked to look at your portfolio? Was it coming from client feedback? What was it that oriented you to get to the situation you're in now, where you have such a stunning portfolio?
So I was my worst critic. Like, everybody else would be like, oh, that looks stunning, or they'd be really, really supportive in terms of either other creators or clients, or even potential clients, friends, family. But to me, my opinion was the only one that mattered. Other people could tell me as many times, but I had to keep using like trial and error to really like figure out kind of my personal style. And I think I did that it's a case of kind of being inspired by something or someone else, or even how you evolve in your like personal life, your personal tastes. Like my personal tastes at home and how I design my house and things like that, those change over time. There's trends obviously that change, and you kind of just evolve from there, and then you end up with an outcome that you're satisfied with. And I think that I'm still probably going to grow, and it's still going to change over time, but it will change in a positive way. And I think that each time I'm going to be happy with the eventual outcome.
Brilliant.
Yeah, if I've got anything to add to that at all, it's like I always, when I'm a branding designer and a graphic designer, like whenever I create anything, I always ask myself, is it unnecessary and is it whimsical? So if I keep asking myself all the time, is it unnecessary? Then I'm trying to always remove anything that's confusing the absolute simplicity or the message that I'm trying to put across. And if something's whimsical, it means somebody else might not understand where I'm coming from, or it might just be extraneous. So by removing these two factors, it's personal to me the way I design, but by removing stuff, I'm always getting down to something that I consider to be sharper and better and more succinct.
Awesome. I think, yeah, thanks so much for everyone. I think it's been a fantastic webinar, lots of really valuable information. And yeah, just wanted to, close this out just by saying, please make sure you go and check out Fabrik. I really think that it's a level above the other portfolio web building sites out there. And it's just, you know, engineered from the ground up for creatives, particularly animators, illustrators, designers, people in the film industry. It's just absolutely perfectly designed for all those types of creative work. So yeah, the website is fabrik.io, which is fabrik.io. So please make sure that you go and check them out. I put the link in the chat here if you want to take a look as well. And also, if you've not been on Twine before, please go and look at the jobs that we have. We vet all of the jobs on the platform to make sure that they are top quality, and we work closely with our creatives to, you know, help them pitch, and also, you know, help them with things like linking out to their Fabrik portfolios in their pitches to help wow clients. So yeah, make sure you go on our blog, look at the information we put about the Fabrik partnerships and you know, content and everything we put there, and make sure you go to the site, which is twine.net, twine.net. And yeah, have a great rest of the week, everyone. Tim, is there anything else I've missed? Anything you wanted to mention people need to?
Not at all. Just to thank Joanna and Patrick for their time this afternoon and for being awesome. And yeah, thanks for letting us waffle on for a while. All good.
Good stuff. I'll be sending a follow-up email to everyone who got a ticket for the webinar with all the different links. So yeah, hope you found it all valuable, and have a great rest of the week. Thanks very much, everyone. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.